I think one of the biggest matches that people are obviously sort of looking forward to potentially happening at WrestleMania 32 is Sting versus The Undertaker. There's no guarantee that match is going to happen. I think for a time after WrestleMania 31, I think people assumed that's where they were going, and they kind of saw Undertaker's match with Bray as a kind of warm up to that, to get to kind of re-establish him as a talent. I don't know if it's going to happen. I really hope it does. I think this is a match that people have been waiting for over 20 years now, and who knows when either of the two are going to call it a day and retire. So I think Vince and the wrestling business as a whole will really regret the decision not to go with that match if they don't have a chance and they realise it's too late. It's going to be one of those big opportunities missed. So I was just thinking if they were going to go down that road, how best might they go about booking the match and giving it some importance and relevance. So I've been thinking about this. You've got to look at the match in terms of do you want to go down the traditional road of having a heel and face dynamic? Is that going to work with these two? Does anyone really want to boo either participant in the match? I mean, I personally don't think so. So it's likely that it's going to go in as a face versus face match. So there's going to have to be some kind of engineering of the storyline in the build up to it. This is just my personal ideas about how they could possibly do it. I don't normally go in for fantasy booking videos and stuff, but I think this is quite an important topic, and I had some ideas that I'd quite like to share and hear what other people have to say, whether they want to contribute to this conversation themselves. So yeah, I think what I would do is start at SummerSlam, which is on Sunday, which obviously the main event is involving The Undertaker. I think that would be a great way to sort of tease a potential storyline with Sting later on down the road. Plant some seeds at least. And really, I mean, this came about because I think with SummerSlam 2015, I think the main event has got a bit of an issue. I think both guys kind of need a win, really. If Undertaker goes in and wins this match, he kind of has to ask what was the point of ending the streak, really. If Taker was just going to get his revenge anyway, and then on the flip side, if Brock wins, just seems like a very sorry way to kind of conclude the Undertaker's career. And again, you'd be like, what was the point in having the match in the first place? You brought Taker back as the resurrection of the dead man, and he was back to his old self, and he was going to try and get revenge on Brock, and it just wouldn't make sense for either guy to lose or to win. So they're in a bit of a problem. What I would do to start this booking off, I know a lot of people are going to be sceptical of this straight from the start, but what I would do is have SummerSlam not end in a clean finish. I'll try and explain why. So the story of the match, what I would do is kind of have a situation where Brock is kind of got the upper hand throughout the match, but can't quite put Taker away. There's a few near falls. There's a few moves that Brock gets in where you think this is the end of the match, and then Taker kicks out, and Brock kind of gets more and more frustrated by it as the match goes on. To the point where towards the end of the match, some kind of distraction caused by Heyman distracts the referee. Brock, for all of the revenge for all of the low blows that Taker has been giving Brock recently, Brock gives Undertaker one back. Undertaker kind of collapses on the floor. Brock picks him up, gives him an F5. You think, right, that's the match done. Just before, referee can count to 3, similar to kind of how they did at Battleground when the referee's counting. Out comes Sting's music, and Sting appears. And I'd imagine that would be quite a big audience reaction to that. I'd have a kind of face-off between the three of them, like Brock kind of looking confused, going what's going on, looking at Sting staring at him and Heyman, Undertaker just kind of regaining consciousness a little bit on the floor. And then in the midst of that confusion, what I would do is have Undertaker sort of get up, sort of recover from the low blow, pick Lesnar up, give him a tombstone and win the match. So that's how we'd kind of have the SummerSlam main event on Sunday finish, with Undertaker winning, not 100% clean, so it kind of protects Brock Lesnar a little bit, and it gives Undertaker, I think, a much needed win, to kind of really cement the kind of resurrection storyline that they're running with him. Next night on Raw, I would have Heyman and Brock come out, all guns blazing, like shouting and screaming at the WWE officials, saying like, this match shouldn't have ended that way. Shame on the WWE for not keeping their superstars under control. And then I'd have Triple H come out as the COO and say, yeah, totally agree with you. That I had so much invested in this match. This match was supposed to be the crowning point of the summer, and Sting's just ruined it. And then, Triple H kind of looks at the camera and he's like, you couldn't stay away, could you, Sting? I beat you at WrestleMania. That should have been the end of it, but no, you had to come back and interfere in my business. And then what that would do is potentially set up what I would imagine would be a blockbuster main event of Survivor Series 2015, tag team match between Triple H and Brock Lesnar versus The Undertaker and Sting. This is kind of similar to what they did with Rock and Cena in the run-up to WrestleMania 28, so to kind of establish the two of them together, they put them in a tag team against The Awesome Truth, and that was a good way of kind of building up that WrestleMania main event. It would give some Survivor Series a much-needed main event that it's been lacking the last sort of few years. Survivor Series is supposed to be one of the big four pay-per-views, and you're supposed to have these big sort of money matches in it. We haven't really had one for a while, really. So this would be a good match to have as a main event. Obviously, you've got the problem with how the match would end, because again, you've got four very big personalities. You might say I'm dreaming a little bit, but the right thing to do really would be for Triple H as the COO to protect the other three who are still more active in the ring than he is. Triple H to take the pinfall would be nice, for Sting to get the victory over him. Just kind of right what many believe are was a wrong at WrestleMania 31 with Triple H going over Sting. So that would be quite a nice way to finish that match. Again, protects Lesnar, and also Undertaker gets another signature pay-per-view victory, albeit not 100% clean, but it goes some way to kind of establish him as a character again. And that's really sort of sowing the seeds in people's minds that Undertaker and Sting, they're starting to imagine what it's going to look like, them two in the same ring together. What I would do the night after Survivor Series 2015, Sting and Taker nowhere to be seen. They both kind of go off. You don't hear from them for a while. In fact, you don't hear from them again until the Royal Rumble 2016. So maybe not the Royal Rumble itself, that probably wouldn't make any sense, but maybe like the day after, Undertaker comes out on Raw and says, this is finally the time for me to retire. I've had a great career. I've managed to have a little bit of a last run, against Brock Lesnar, and this is the time to call it a day. And really kind of make people believe that's going to happen. So Undertaker kind of says it, walks off, and the crowd are a bit like, is that real? Or is this a curveball? Are we going to see him again? But that's the way that episode of Raw should end. And then again, you don't really mention anything for a while. You do the whole run up into Fastlane or whatever it's going to be, the pay-per-view before Mania. Do all that, and then the night after Fastlane, Sting comes out and says, it's time for me to retire. I've had a great career. Really happy that I got to wrestle with the WWE and got the main event of not main event, a match at WrestleMania with Triple H. Really good way to round off my career, and it's finally time for me to step aside. So, and again, you're making the fans question. Is this real? Is this kind of building up to something at WrestleMania? We don't know. And then maybe sort of the week after, what I would do is actually have Vince McMahon come out, because in the Raw just before WrestleMania, I think they had Sting start an episode of Raw, which is obviously a big historic moment for the company. But they had Stephanie come out and kind of cut a promo with him in the ring, and I thought it would have been much better if it was Vince McMahon. Vince was the guy that could never quite sign Sting to a contract. Has always managed to kind of slip through his fingers, and now he's finally got him as a talent. So Vince McMahon comes out and says, I'm not going to let this slip. We know that you want to see this match, and Sting, if you're listening, please come back next week and we can discuss potentially you and Taker at WrestleMania. And that's kind of the first indication that it's official now, like that match is going to happen in the crowd's mind. So again, the next week, Sting comes back and says, I'm up for it if Taker is. And then I wouldn't have Taker come out for another couple of weeks. Maybe the Raw before WrestleMania, the Go Home show. I'd probably have Taker finally kind of come out and say, you know, I was thinking my plan was to retire, but you know, this is an opportunity I can't miss, and this is going to be my final match. And then Sting says, yeah, this is going to be my final match. They have a double retirement match at WrestleMania, ideally in the main event, but who knows what other matches are going to be on that card. But you know, you would like it to be possibly a main event match. And then in terms of who wins, I mean, you know, that's another question, I suppose. You know, it would be unfortunate for Sting to have 2 WrestleMania matches in his career and to lose both of them, but then, you know, do you really want The Undertaker to finish his WWE career on a loss? So, you know, in terms of balance, I'd probably prefer Taker to win the match if they did do it at WrestleMania, and then have them both kind of ride off into the sunset together and fully retire. So those are my thoughts. If anyone's got any suggestions for how that can be improved, or if you've thought about this yourself, then let me know in the comment section. And yeah, probably won't do many more of these kind of fantasy booking videos. I prefer to do kind of like reviews of shows and things, but every now and then, you know, I'll get the urge to do something like this. So hope you enjoyed it, and yeah, I'll see you next time.